Coming up, we learn about the women warriors of the 1973 Wounded Knee occupation. The Sioux chef hones in on the importance of food sovereignty. A Navajo leader shares leadership and a look at Native representation on corporate boards. I'm Mackenzie Allen Charmley. Join us for this special edition of the ICT Newscast.
This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.
Arizona State University welcomes 3,500 Indigenous students from Arizona and across the nation. It serves one of the largest populations of Indigenous students among U.S. colleges and universities. We created a sense of place for tribal nations to create futures of their own making through community outreach and research, taught by world-class Indigenous faculty where they see a reflection of themselves and their experiences. Find community at ASU.
Chinangale, we're so glad you could join us. The 1973 occupation of Wounded Knee made household names out of men like Carter Camp, Dennis Banks, and Russell Means. But women also played powerful roles in the occupation. They were honored this year during commemorations of the 50th anniversary of Wounded Knee. ICT's Shirley Snavy and Stuart Huntington report.
The Warrior Women Project celebrated the women who put their lives on the line in 1973 at Wounded Knee. The project gathers oral histories from the women of the Red Power movement. Some of the veterans of the occupation were in Porcupine to share their stories. Lavita Yigo talked about the spiritual awakening she underwent when she joined AIM.
I was not taught my Kiowa traditional ways. I didn't know anything about my Kiowa ways, but it taught me when I went to Wounded Knee of the spirituality of what it was all about, what AIM was all about. And I wanted that. I was hungry for something for that, and I found it through the American Indian movement. I found my spirituality.
About 200 people came to Porcupine, like Diane Bird, who left her teaching job in California to join the occupation. She returned to Pine Ridge for the 50th anniversary commemoration.
I was part of security working with these guys, and they set up a radio, and there was little radios in every bunker, and we kept in touch with each other, and they would ask, and it was controlled. There was a head of security, and the security would know where the people in the bunkers were and what level of fire to respond to, whether it was 100%, 50%, or hold your fire, period. Because we didn't have that many guns, and we didn't have that many bullets for those guns. We were surrounded by federal marshals, by FBI, with tanks, with all the latest weapons, like even from the Army, and we didn't know it, but we learned about that later. And all we had were like little rabbit plunkers, that kind of thing.
Madonna Thunderhawk has participated in every major Red Power operation from Alcatraz to Standing Rock. She says it's no surprise to find women at the forefront.
And when the Red Power movement came, in those days, your community was the ones that made those decisions and decided how things were going to run. So it was automatically a matriarchal system. Still is today. But we don't have to constantly make a big issue of it and run around and, because it's culture, it's tradition. It's the way it is.
Tradition, yes, but the women of Wounded Knee still inspire.
Their actions in coming together and reclaiming their rights as Lakota warriors, Lakota matriarchs, they did that for us. They made an everlasting imprint on generations and generations, bringing back the strength and bringing back the ability for us as, Lakota people to be able to be proud of who we are.
Definitely found the women speaking today to be so inspiring. About a year ago, there was a film screening at the Fargo Theater, and so I was able to sit down with Madonna and her team and her daughter, and so it was a very rich moment to be in the presence of giants that have paved the way for us. But yes, definitely find inspiration from them, and hope to continue pushing the work towards justice forward for all of us.
Pushing forward with a powerful message.
I'm not only a survivor of Wounded Knee, I'm a survivor of rape and abuse, domestic violence. I'm a survivor of those three. So I call myself, I used to be in the victim stage, or think I was a victim. I'm no longer a victim.
That's a good message.
Yeah. And if you're in that kind of trouble, get help. There's help out there. Get brave enough. Get courage in your heart to take a stand for yourself. That's what it's all about. And that's what AIM taught me. That's what being in Wounded Knee taught me, was to be more bold, speak up. Creator didn't make you a mouth and not say nothing, speak up.
That courageous act of defiance was the beginning of a new era. I was in high school in 1973. My parents taught at the Flandreau Indian boarding school in South Dakota. Suddenly, after the occupation of Wounded Knee, we became proud of our Native American heritage. We learned to bead, a simple but powerful way to embrace culture. In Lincoln, Nebraska, Shirley Snavy, ICT News.
Sean Sherman, also known as the sous chef, is the owner of the restaurant Awamni in Minneapolis, Minnesota. His restaurant showcases Indigenous cuisine and the importance of community. ICT's Shirley Snavy sat down with Sean at the Reservation Economic Summit in Las Vegas to hear more.
Well, we just arrived here at the Res Conference, and who do I run into but my cousin? Great to see you, Sean Sherman.
Nice to see you also. Thank you.
And what are you doing here?
This is my first res, so I'm excited. We did some menu stuff with them, so we sent them some recipes, and they're going to be serving some recipes that we created for them. And I'm actually trying to find the right people to drop off some food stuff so they can finish it. And then this morning I'm on a panel with Andy Murphy on Farm Bill stuff.
The Farm Bill, that's really interesting. What's your particular take on it, and what do you want to see?
I just want to see, I think it's a great opportunity, obviously, because it's every 5 years, and it's, coming up right now, and obviously politics are a mess, but, it's going to go through no matter what, because it has to. And if we're able to squeeze in some rewordings and a few other things, there's a lot of pieces that could be added to really help with just Indigenous food availability and production and everything across the board, and accessibility.
And how does that impact what you do in the restaurant?
For me, the restaurant's just, it's a proof of concept that we can have this really nice, modern Indigenous restaurant in a beautiful setting, a full staff, because I think we have 150 employees, and, it's a really beautiful thing. But my larger work is with the nonprofit and just creating the two pillars of the nonprofit, which is NATIVS, or North American Traditional Indigenous Food Systems, is creating access to Indigenous foods and creating access to Indigenous education. So with the Farm Bill, that's where it really works, because our vision is trying to spread out across North America to help set up support systems for more Indigenous culinary operations. And there's just a lot of hurdles and a lot of situations that the government, their rules hinder us from having our own Indigenous foods around, especially when it comes to proteins or moving foods across state lines and things like that. And there's just a lot of little fixes that we need to keep pushing for to have a healthier, better economics around Indigenous foods in general, and just to really see it grow over the next few decades.
One of the things that I'm grateful for my parents, even though at the time I wouldn't have told you I was grateful, is that we always had big gardens when I was growing up. It was great because I learned to appreciate agriculture and farming and where your food comes from. And I think that that's an opportunity that reservation-based schools can do, is to introduce agriculture and what it has to do with their life early on.
Absolutely, it's that connection to growing, it's that connection to just how plants work, and just seeing food and from a different perception, where a lot of kids just grow up thinking food comes from the grocery store, and there's no connection to how food is actually grown. So it's really important for our education to really focus on how do we grow food, how do we see food, how do we identify food out in the wild, and how do we utilize that.
And how's the winter been for you?
Well, in Minnesota, it's like the North Pole, basically. So, we have a really nice growing season because it's just starting. We just started maple tapping, like this last weekend. And so it's slowly going to turn back into food season. So we'll have about 5 months of good weather and about 18 months of winter again in the end.
18 months of winter. My daughter sent me snow pictures over the weekend. It was crazy.
Oh, I know. We had a foot of snow just out of nowhere. So.
Oh, geez. So tell us a little bit more about the nonprofit and what's up with that.
So Nonprofit Natives, we're based in South Minneapolis. And we're right on Lake Street in Minneapolis, and we're about ready to launch a native market space. So our community around us in the city will have access to purchasing Indigenous food products that we'll be curating and growing, and even making products ourselves out of our own kitchen. And then we also have a native classroom where we're just going to be hosting a whole bunch of Indigenous focused curriculum, everything from culinary and food preservation and cooking techniques to language and crafting and medicinals and foraging and farming, whatever it might be. We're just creating a space to teach Indigenous education. And everything we teach is going to be recorded because we invested into lots of video stuff, so we can just record everything, edit it, get it online, and just create a ton of video content on all sorts of Indigenous focused curriculum. So that's an exciting piece, and that's ready to launch within just the next couple of months. So we're really excited because that was the first model of what the Indigenous Food Lab, which is the public-facing piece of our nonprofit, is supposed to be. And then we're already working to creating more extensions of Indigenous food labs in different regions. So there's a lot of interest out there, and we're trying to create a system that we can just keep building and keep creating regional center points for more education development, more food access.
I've noticed over the years that there have been some folks that have mentored with you or apprenticed with you and are off doing their own thing around the country, and that's really kind of fun to see.
Yeah, we're just trying to be healthy role models and give people opportunities. And like I said, we have 150 employees at the restaurant, and it's it's good, it's popular, and restaurants are difficult, and we're growing really fast with the nonprofit. We're going through a lot of coming into ourselves really quickly, and it feels good where we're at and where we're moving, so we feel like the future looks really bright for us, so that's how we feel.
I want to turn and talk about something completely different, and that's your family.
Okay.
And I want to talk to you about your family because I think that having generations of folks in your background supporting you and making it a priority to be educated and to try new things. You want to talk a little bit about the influence that your family's had on your life choices?
Yeah, I mean, obviously growing up on Pine Ridge Reservation, we grew up on my mom's dad's cattle ranch, so we had a lot of cattle. They ran a lot of cattle, they had a lot of acreage that they were managing, and we just had a lot of open land to explore as kids, because I grew up in a generation where we didn't watch TV, we still read books, and we spent all of our time outside, basically. I was actually teasing my dad because he was saying we were all raised by boomers. I was like, boomers didn't raise us, they just kicked us outside till dark. That's all they did, and but we had I feel like a lot of my family, there's just been a lot, like my cousin Lori Puyer, she's done such amazing work, and my other cousin Walt Puyer in Denver, my uncle Ben Sherman, we were just in Perth, Australia at this big World Indigenous Tourism Summit together. There's just been a lot of really positive influences out there of trying to make a difference and trying to do something good and try to give something back to our community where we came from and beyond even, So I feel really honored and blessed that a lot of my family have done something really well in there, just it's great.
Well, thank you, Sean Sherman, chef from Minneapolis. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
That was Indigenous food researcher, promoter, and entrepreneur Sean Sherman. When we come back, we take another look at a 2022 interview with the late Navajo leader Peterson Za. Navajo elder and leader Peterson Za died in March at the age of 85. He led his nation in the 1980s and 1990s. To many, he was a role model and mentor, including to Janie Parrish. We have this interview from January 2022 when Parrish sat down with Za at his home in Window Rock, Arizona. At the time, he had just been honored by the Grand Canyon Trust for his service. She asked what stood out for him in his career.
Probably the development of the Permanent Fund for the Navajo Nation. As you know, the Navajo Nation lived off mineral lease income. They make mineral leases with companies such as coal and all of the other minerals that we have here on the res, including the one that I think that did a devastating job in a negative way, which is the uranium. And so they lived off the annual income of those companies making the lease payment that they have with the Navajo Nation. So when I became the tribal chair, I've heard a lot of complaints about some of those companies, and it will take you to a position that you need to establish, which is that maybe that's not a way to build a nation, because what we're trying to do on a Navajo is really build a nation that we like to work with. And so we decided as a group that what we should do is establish a permanent fund. That way we don't have to rely on income from mineral leases from companies, and we'll have our own money that we can generate through interest earned each year, and then leave the principal in safe places with the banks and trust companies. And that way we have a steady income that comes in each year to do the project that we need to do. We used to have around maybe 8, 9, 10,000. We're right over 15, almost 20,000 students that are applying for a scholarship. Of that number that we now have in college, even if you educate only 1 or 2, they get their degree, they're equipped to come back to the Navajo Nation. You never know how much they can do at those local school districts, for example. Organizing the community, organizing the youth, so that they don't have to sit around, not do anything, and idle. It's one of those things that I think they need to learn how to do, is to really create their own things that they have passion for, and just provide them with resources such as education and encouragement from families, their grandparents, and help them. Because even if you go on to college and get your degree or master's degree, you still don't really know what the local community wants done back in your community. So you need the advice, a sense of direction and an encouragement from the elderly people, because they live there all their life and they know what's needed. And all they need to do is work with the youth that's trained in the white man's ways to accomplish certain things. But when it comes to the local community and the Navajo people, they have to rely on that. One has to feel good when they are helping somebody. You have to have a passion for that. You can't say to yourself, well, they gave me all this problem, here's the way I'm going to solve it my way. You can't do that. You have to work with them. You have to also encourage them. The concept that they're able and capable and have the resources to resolve some of those issues. And so you put it back on them and say, okay, Why don't we look at it? We, not me. And I think to people, that's really, really important because they're helping resolve their own problem. It's almost just like any student. You don't tell a student and say, okay, to solve your problem, I want you to come here at 8 o'clock each morning. And then I'll teach you or I'll show you. You have to put some of that responsibility on their own shoulders.
That was the late Navajo leader Peterson Za. There have been more and more efforts underway to make corporate boardrooms more diverse. ICT's Mark Trehant has this Indigenous Economics Project report with funding from the Bay and Paul Foundations.
There are not many stores that are more high dollar than Saks Fifth Avenue. It's a little Hollywood, New York, all glitz. But there is another story, one about colonization. Think about your day. We are all surrounded by corporate influences. Companies tell us what's good to eat, where we should shop, or how to save our money. Then it's been that way for a long time. And that brings us back to Saks. It's owned by one of the first corporations to trade with Indigenous people, Hudson's Bay, a company that opened its doors in 1607. These companies have been selling to us for a long time. But what if Indigenous people were included? What if we had representation in this framework? You see, corporations, like governments, have a structure, and that includes a board of directors. These are the men and a few women who are legally obligated to run those companies. And in 5 centuries, few Indigenous people have been invited to a seat at that table. In Chicago, Mary Smith, a citizen of the Cherokee Nation, is changing that narrative.
Well, I'm a lawyer, and I focused on corporate governance for a lot of my career and also highly regulated industries. And so a few years back, I started wanting to be on corporate boards, but I find it really fascinating and interesting and hope that I'm making a difference too, because as a board member, you're helping set a direction for a company and an organization and help them overcome their challenges and, hopefully help people.
There are some 4,000 companies traded on Wall Street. Each has a professional board member who is responsible for corporate governance. The number of American Indians and Alaska Natives represented on those boards is far less than 0.1%. Smith has the resume for this type of post. She is an attorney, and she has been the chief executive officer for the U.S. Indian Health Service, a $6 billion a year operation.
I think for most people, you're not going to get a call out of the blue. Some people do, but I think you have to put yourself out there and, first of all, ask yourself, why do I want to be on a corporate board? And what value will I bring? And then also put yourself out there so that people know that you want to be on a corporate board, because there are recruiters that recruit for corporate boards, but the vast majority of board seats are still filled through networking.
Smith is on the board for PTC Therapeutics, Inc. It's a publicly traded global biopharmaceutical company that helps provide medicine to patients with rare disorders. This is a job, and she is paid more than $30,000 a year to serve, according to the company's report with the Securities and Exchange Commission. On top of that, she is awarded both options and stocks that depend on the success of the company. These together could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Well, $30,000 is a lot of money. It's not as much as the average board seat. According to the search firm Spencer Stewart's annual report, the total average compensation for a board seat is $312,000 per year. This type of compensation shows that serving on a corporate board is a good gig. Yet the number of Indigenous people who hold such seats is really tiny. But this is a moment when that could be changing. More regulators are asking companies to show they are recruiting and appointing diverse directors. More regulators are asking companies to show how they are recruiting and appointing diverse directors. And more investors are judging companies based on their diversity and inclusion results. Assemblyman James Ramos serves in the California legislature, and he explains the logic of this law.
It's very important to have representation, especially from the Native American community, because it serves as two different folds. One, to make sure that representation of not only California's First People, but the nation's First People has a voice in driving the economics of our communities and of our state and of our nation.
And there is another important lesson. Boards are appointed from a network of other board members. So for hundreds of years, white men looked around and appointed each other, white men, people they knew. Now that net is being cast wider because people like Mary Smith have their own networks.
I would love to see more Native Americans on boards, and I hope that some people would start to say, yeah, I could do that, and then try to put themselves out there to be on the radar for people being on board.
The challenge for corporate boards is to get beyond their usual suspects, to look for the talent pool that is Indian country. In Chicago, I'm Mark Trahant for ICT Newscast.
And that's a slice of our Indigenous world. For more news, visit ictnews.org. From all of us in the newsroom, stay safe, my relatives.
This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.